Hello and welcome to Little Stitches with Miss Mary. Today we're making a felt donut. This one doesn't have the stuffing in yet, but we're going to go through that and how to do it with this video. If you stopped by the library and picked up a kit, inside it you'll find a pattern for a donut, a piece of tan felt, two different color smaller squares of felt. This will be our icing. You'll see a little spool of thread, a self-threading needle, some fluff, and a bit of little beads, and those are going to be our sprinkles that we will sew on the top. If you picked up a kit from the library, the two other supplies you'll need to complete this project is a permanent marker and some scissors. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is take your tan piece of felt and fold it in half. And set that off to the side. You're going to find your donut pattern and we're going to cut that out. Then I'm going to fold it in half so I can cut out the middle. So I'm just going to do a little cut and then open it back up so my scissors fit back in that hole I just made. And I'm going to cut that out and around. All right. Then you could set the scissors aside, get your little felt piece. Now you get to decide if you want to make 2 donuts or just 1. So if I just trace this in the middle, I'm only going to have enough room for 1. But there is enough room here to make 2. So I'm going to scooch mine all the way to one side. I'm going to trace the middle. Trace around the outside. And I left enough room, so I'm going to trace my other one around and around. So with that, if you decided to make 1 or 2, I'm just going to show you 1 all the way through, and if you do 2, then you just follow the same steps for the second one. So I'm going to keep this folded in half. If you're worried about cutting it, you could open this up and trace all 4 and then cut them out. But I'm going to fold it in half and just make sure my felt stays put. So when I'm cutting it, I'm cutting this side and this side so they're the same on both sides. And then I'm going to cut around the outside first. And that's okay if you see some of the black marks. We're just going to turn that inside out, so that will be on the inside of our donut. All right, then I'm going to fold it in half again, just like we cut out the pattern, and cut, open it back up, make sure they're still lined up, and I'm going to cut that center out of my donut as well. And I'm just moving nice and slow, and I'm being careful with my scissors. Nice and slow. All right, once you got those, again, if you're just doing 1, you're done with that. If you're doing 2, you could also cut this one out and then you'll have both. Now with this, like I said, it's okay if you see some of those dark lines. Because the smaller you cut it to get rid of the dark lines, your donut's just going to get smaller and smaller. So we can cut on the outside, and then what we're going to do is just flip it, so that's going to be on the inside of our donut and we won't ever see it again. The next thing we're going to do is take whichever color icing you want to use next. Actually, we will use the pattern again. I'm going to put the pattern right in the middle, and I'm going to cut out, or I'm going to use this to trace and cut out the center, and that way I don't have to guess at how big that circle is. So again, I'm going to take it and fold it and cut out that circle. Now that we've got our circle cut out, I'm going to set it on my donut. Now if we see this one, see how I cut out that colored felt to make it look like icing on the donut? So you could cut any shape you want. You want a lot of icing or a little icing, that's up to you. But I'm going to try to make sure there's no harsh corners or straight lines. So I'm going to take it and go wavy, wavy, wavy all the way around. And just like that. Now that I've got all 3 of my layers, I'm going to find my spool of thread, and then you got to find the end. There we go. Now I don't want to take too much thread because it's just going to get all knotted. And I'm going to fold it in half, and you're going to take the ends and put them together, and I'm going to wrap it around my finger and roll it toward the front, and then pull down. And then you're going to get a nice little knot. So you wrap it around your finger and roll down. Now I've got a nice loop of thread. Then you're going to take your needle that came with the kit, fold it in half again so the knot is on one side and your loop is on the other. You're going to take your needle and just roll it along that end. I know it's hard to see it on the video, but when you're looking at your needle, you could see the little opening where the thread just falls right in there. And then you're ready to get started. The first thing I'm going to do is open up my donut, and I'm going to put one little stitch through the middle so that way the knot isn't on the outside of my donut. See how it's on the inside? And then from there, I'm going to start by making little stitches all the way around the center of that donut. So I pulled this up through the top. I'm going to go around this side and back up through the top. So I'm trying to close off that outside. The closer you make your stitches, the better it is so all the stuffing doesn't fall out. I'm going to try to get it nice and close. So I don't want my stitches to be too far away or too far into my donut. So I'm keeping right along the edge, and I'm going as close as I can, keeping them spaced out evenly. Oh, and you'll see that sometimes, since it's a self-threading needle, it'll just pop out. And all you have to do is take the end and push it back in there. So from the bottom of the donut up through the top and pull through. You're going to go all the way around. All right, I'm about halfway and I'm running low on string. So what I want to do is I'm going to go up through the bottom like we've been, but only to the middle of the donut. So I'm only going to do through one part of it. So I see it in the middle. And I'm going to make my knot. So I'm going to go through and pull the needle through that loop I just made. Ooh. Up through here. And I'm going to do it one more time. And pull. And then you can cut that. And see how I didn't do it on the back. I did it on the inside of the donut so you can't see where that knot is. I'm only halfway, so what I'm going to do is take the rest of this thread off. I'm going to get more thread. Cut that. And I'm going to knot it again, just like before. Bring that loop up. And you'll push it through there. And again, I don't want the knot on the outside of my donut, so I'm going to go on the inside and push it up. That way it's on the inside of my donut and not on the outside. And then I'm going to keep on going. Okay, I made it all the way around. And now I want to knot this end. I forgot to show you one other way to knot it if you don't like doing it the first way I showed you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and go up through the bottom. So I'm in the center of the donut again. The other thing, if you end up having stitches that are spaced far apart, you can go through this one more time and go in between each one and make it even more secure. So on the inside, the knot I showed you was you go through the felt and you're making a loop and you take your needle. Oh, if it falls off, that's okay. And you're going to bring it up through the center of that loop. And that's how you make a knot. The other way you could do it is take your needle off, take your scissors, and cut your loop in half. And you could actually, with two pieces, make your knot. So cross them over and pull the one through. If you do it this way, I would suggest doing it at least 3 times. So that's 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to cut the extra off. We got our center of our donut all stitched up. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to find the little beads that are going to be our sprinkles. You can use as many or as little as you want, but if you do end up doing 2 donuts, make sure that you separate them out so you have enough for each one. For this, we're going to take one piece of string. I'm going to cut it. And I'm not going to fold it in half. I'm just going to make a knot at one of the ends. The reason for this is it's a little easier to get it through the bead with only a single instead of making the loop. So I made my knot. I am going to take my needle and take my thread just down a little bit. Remember, we didn't loop it. It's only one single string. I'm just going to fold it in half so I could at least put it through and have it bent over like that. Then we're going to pick where we want our first sprinkle to go. So I'm going to put one right here. So I'm going to pull this through all the way up, and then I'm actually going to set my needle down. The needle doesn't fit through the sprinkle, so then I'm going to take my one single thread that's been pulled through the icing color, that has a knot on the back, and I'm going to put it through the center of the bead. If you have trouble getting the thread through, sometimes you have to recut the thread just a little bit off the top to make it even, to put it through, or you get a little bit of water and wet it. And you'll bring it from the outside, pull it all the way down, and then again you're going to get your needle, fold over the thread, and figure out where the end of that sprinkle is going to go. So I'm going to go this way, like that. Then I'm going to find where the next sprinkle is going to go. So I'm going to go way over here. And again, once I pull it through the top of the icing, I could set my needle down, take my thread, pull it and push it through the bead to the other side, pull it through, fold the thread over, put it on the needle, and then you're picking which direction you want the sprinkles to go. So if I put my needle over here, the sprinkle is going to go that way. If I put it over here, it's going to face this way. So you are designing your donut however you would like. And you see how I'm not tying it or stopping, I'm just going to the next one because you're not going to see underneath this, so that's okay. And then I'm going to go down a little bit, and I'm going to put one right here. I'm going to pull that string. Now, if putting all these little beads on are a little too hard, you could always glue them on at the end. But you have to be extra careful if you glue them on that they don't fall off. Okay, there may be a point where your single string is getting too short to kind of continue putting your sprinkles on. So what you're going to do is either, if you're just tying it, you could find one of the little string angles that you have on the other side and pull it through. And then knot it that way, since we can't knot it by cutting the loop because there's no loop this time. Or if you like doing it with the needle, you could put it back on the needle. You'll go through a little bit of the felt. You'll make a loop. And then you're going to pull right through the middle of that loop. And then you'll make your nice little knot. You can do that twice. Right through the loop. And then you can cut that extra. You could decide that that's enough sprinkles, or you can go in with a little more yarn, or you can go back in with a little more string. Remember, you want to keep it a single piece this time. We don't want to fold it in half for the sprinkles. It just makes it harder to pull through. I'm going to just trim that tail. You're only going to fold it to put it onto the needle. And then always come up through the back so the knot isn't showing on the top. And then you just keep getting your sprinkles on. All right, once our sprinkles are done, we are going to start closing up the outside so we can put our stuffing in. I'm going to get some string. This time I am going to fold my piece of string in half. I'm going to knot the end by rolling it on my finger, taking that loop, and putting it on my needle. I'm going to do the same type of stitch we've been doing where we're just going around the outside. Then I'm going to take my needle. I am going to start on the inside of the donut, not too far in, just a little bit on the inside. That way the knot is on the inside of the donut and not on the outside. Then I'm going to come over to the top, right above it, and bring that down. Just the same way we were doing the inside. So I'm going to bring it. Now it's kind of coming from the inside, going around the top, and going back through the bottom. Again, we don't want it too far away so the stuffing falls out, and we don't want it too big, so keeping it nice and close and going right through the top and the bottom. So we're going to keep going just like that till about halfway. You want to stop halfway because we want to make it easy on ourselves to get the stuffing in there. So I'm going to do this until I'm halfway around the donut. Okay, so I'm about halfway and I'm also running on a string. So I'm going to call this a good point to stop. And so I'm going to make my knot. And again, I'm going to do it on the inside of the donut. I'm going to pull it through. Oop. Pull it through the loop. And I'm going to do that twice. Then I'm going to cut that. Then I'm going to bring out my stuffing. If you ended up making 2 donuts, you could rip your stuffing in half so you know you have enough for both. So I'm going to take a little bit at a time, and I'm going to add it to the side that we already finished sewing. So the half that we already stitched. I'm going to push it as far as I can on one side and fill up that. And then I'm going to go in the other way and fill up the other side. And you can make your donut as fluffy as you want it. Now I'm only going as far as I have sewed so far. Okay, good. This next one I'm going to do is I'm only going to go, like we went halfway, now I'm going to go 1/4 of the way, so half of half. So I'm only going to sew from here to here, because I still want a little bit open because I'm going to shove the rest of the stuffing in there before I finish sewing it. Okay, I've made it half, and we stuffed it, and then half of what we have left. So this much is open still on mine. So I still have a lot of string, so I'm not going to cut it or anything. I'm going to just set it down. I'm going to take my stuffing and I'm going to add it in. All right, from there, I'm going to continue and I'm going to do half of that. So I have this much that's open. I'm going to do half of that. So I'm going to go to about right here. All right, now I'm half of half. And I still have a good amount of string, so I'm not gonna cut it yet. I'm just gonna take a little more stuffing. I'm gonna add it to the side we just did. Okay, now can you guess what we're gonna do next? We're gonna do half of this. So right now I have this much left, so maybe about 1.5 inches. I'm gonna do a little bit more, and that way I can still fit one finger inside to get the stuffing in there. So if it's already too small and you can't fit your finger in there, you can stop now and wait till the next part. But if it's still big enough to fit like 3 fingers in, we're gonna sew it half of that so only one finger can fit in there. Okay, I'm also running on a string. So I'm gonna stop right here. So I got enough room where I could still put the stuffing in. I'm gonna knot this thread on the inside of my donut. And remember, you can cut the thread and tie it if you prefer. Okay, cut that off. And then I'm going to cut my string first. I don't need too much more. Fold it in half. Pull it through so the knot is on the inside. And then I'm going to get a little more stuffing to fill up that last bit of space. So I am filling up the space right below where I need to sew next. So there is going to be kind of stuffing sticking out a little bit, but that's okay. We're going to finish sewing that up and it will stay in there. So before we sew up the rest, kind of feel around and make sure all the stuffing's where you want it to be. Make sure you push that down, pinch your felt, and then let's finish this donut. So I'm going to go all the way to where I first started, which is right there. Alright, once I made it to the beginning, we are going to have to do one knot on the outside since our inside's all sewed up. So I'm going to do it on the bottom so you can't see it as much. So you're going to make your knot. Remember, you could go through, pull it up through the loop, and pull. Or if you have your loop, you could take your scissors, cut the loop. Now you've got your 2 pieces, and then you can tie a knot. If you tie it, make sure you do at least 3. 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to cut the little tails off. And we got our own little icing donut. Now, if you want the icing to stay down, you can add a little glue and glue that down. Or if you have some extra thread, you are welcome to either leave it how it is, glue down the little corners, or if you did want to use the thread, what you would do is get a loop, get a little corner, so you're going to have it come from the bottom of your icing, so that way the knot is in the inside. You're going to push it down to see where the icing would be. You're going to take your thread and go under and back through. So I'm going through the donut, through the icing, And only one time is fine, and then you gotta knot it right there. So we're just doing one little stitch on the corner to keep it down. Because when I look at this, I like that this one's up a little bit. So I'm just gonna do this one, and I'm gonna leave this side. I'm gonna go up through the back, down. Now this one doesn't reach all the way to that edge that we stitched, so I'm gonna go right in the donut, back up through the top, and pull that down just one time, and then I'm gonna make my little knot right here. Right at the base of that little stitch. And there we go. Thank you for joining me today, little stitches. I hope all of your donuts came out looking delicious. If you'd like to show me how they came out, feel free to take a picture and you could send it to our library's email or our Facebook Messenger. All right, see you next time, little stitches.